Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, back from St. Louis, Missouri for the Royal Rumble weekend. And I am joined here, as I am every Monday, to get this week going right, to talk all things the WWE Royal Rumble. It's our good friend, Michael Wiseman. Michael, welcome back to Wrestling Inc. Daily.
We're some good buds. You were in the home of Bud this weekend. How was it?
Oh, it was the home of Budweiser, you mean, right?
Yeah, of course.
Not like marijuana's. Yeah.
Oh.
In fact, it's decriminalized but not legal there. Funny, I know that. But anyway, yeah, no, Budweiser, St. Louis, I like St. Louis. I like Midwest towns. I'd probably go back to St. Louis, spend some time there. But you got me, if you want to ask me about Budweiser is a trash beer that is disgusting, and I don't like Budweiser. And when I went to the Dome, which we're going to talk about here, I was offered only Bud Light or Bud Select, whatever that is, and was pretty upset about it.
Must be premium. It is selected. Come on. Okay, so I've been to St. Louis as well. I actually did a tour of the Budweiser factory and did the whole thing and got the Bud on tap straight from the horse's mouth, if you will. And I will say, having Budweiser in St. Louis at the Budweiser factory, fresh, was actually a pretty good experience. You're selling it short. Budweiser fresh is legit. It's legit.
All right. Anyway, we're not going to talk about it. I'm going to piss off Budweiser, and maybe they wanted to give us money.
Wow.
So we're going to talk about the Rumble here in just a moment. Later on in the show, if you're listening to us in audio form, you're going to get to hear one of my Royal Rumble Media Row interviews. This one's with Apollo Crews. I just really like this talk. It was nice to talk to somebody who had been with WWE for a while that came up through the indie system. And his thoughts on how the fact that, that's not a traditional path to WWE anymore, right? Guys don't get over on the indies like he did and necessarily get signed now. How does he feel about it? A heavier talk than I think he was expecting from Media Row, Michael.
That's awesome. You got some, it seems like you were there on the ground doing some pretty cool work, though. You got some big names, Apollo Crews, AJ Styles.
AJ,
right?
Liv. Yeah, a bunch of nicknames. So we're going to have those going out over the next week or so. But if you want to watch that in video form, already live on our YouTube channel. At the end of the show, we'll dive into the mailbag, and we're going to look at some rumored WrestleMania 38 matches. But without further ado, it's time for some news you can use. News that'll leave a bruise. And Michael, I have a surprise for you.
What?
Are you ready for this, Michael?
I love surprises. Let's do it.
So I know you were already excited to talk about the Rumble with me, right?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be great if we could have a little three-man booth action here today to talk about the Rumble? Because joining us right now is the one and only Brian Fritz.
What is this?
He heard the call last week on the show about him and his helicopter, and we made contact. And yeah, Fritzy, welcome to the show. It's Michael. You guys are connected.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm glad to be a part of this, and I'm glad that Mike was surprised.
I was. It's nice to meet you, Brian Fritz. I'm Michael Wiseman.
Yeah.
I used to co-host Between the Ropes.
Yes, we're both losers of the annual Royal Rumble pool that I do.
Damn, that was that we just had. I had the worst picks. I had 3, 6, and 9 for the men's Rumble. Come on, Brian. Brian, why are you here
for the women?
Amazing.
Though. Yeah, Nick hit me up and said, "Hey, you want to come on?" I was like, "You know what? My calendar's pretty open on Monday at 5 o'clock Eastern. So why not? Let's talk a little Rumble."
Legit surprise. Thank you, Nick. I love both of you guys very much. Very much.
You're welcome. I thought this would be fun. So yes, Michael and Brian did Between the Ropes for many years, for those who don't know, so very familiar with one another, good friends. Big surprise for Michael. We got about a half hour here to dive into all the Rumble stuff now. So let's get to it. Fritz, thanks for joining us, man. I love this. So we're going to start off with Roman Reigns retaining the Universal title over Seth Rollins after he got himself DQ'd for not breaking a submission move. Should be noted that before the match, Rollins came out to a Shield entrance, and I know, Michael, you like to hear what I think were the biggest pops from inside the Dome. For my money, that was 1 or 2. Rollins coming out to the Shield music got a huge reaction. I guess since, Michael, you're my regular, I'll start to you. We'll try to go back and forth. But, Michael, what did you think about this opening bout here in the Rollins tribute and everything?
I love the opening there, right? Seth Rollins coming down was the right way to handle that. You got the audience pumped up. It was something different. It felt special, right? Roman Reigns has gone through a lot of guys putting up against Seth. All right, let's lean into the Shield thing a little bit. I think the ending is what killed it for me because Roman Reigns was on an undefeated streak on pay-per-views and he didn't need the count out. And I think it takes away a little bit from his dominance here. But overall, great match other than the ending there.
Fritzy, disagree, agree? What do you think about what Michael said here?
No, I totally agree. It's, I don't think there's really any harm for somebody doing a clean finish. And, they're going to have Roman go over. That's fine. Just focus on having a great match. And it seems like, and this is something we don't see, in that the Rumble, you want to see clean finishes, and it's going to set up what's going to be happening at WrestleMania. But what they did here, to me, is they used a match in the Royal Rumble to have a non-finish to set up a match in Saudi Arabia. You're using one of your biggest pay-per-views of the year, the Royal Rumble, to set up something at the Elimination Chamber, because they just want to have a non-finish so they could go and probably have a rematch next month in Saudi.
Yeah, Saudi street fight between Roman and Seth Rollins going down here in like 2 weeks. That's what I was joking with people in my area. And I don't like to be the odd man out here or say the words devil advocate, but I actually didn't mind the finish here. I don't really care if his undefeated streak on pay-per-view comes to an end, the bigger streak, the actual WWE title streak, how long he's held on to that title. That is the bigger number for me. And it shows how desperate this man is getting. It's very Shakespearean with the walls closing in here. Maybe Rollins got into his head. And I even love the PTSD of, like, remember when Rollins got from behind and hit him with the chair, right? Like, for him to just, like, go back to that place and just snap and lose it in that moment, I didn't mind it, right? And, yeah, it's going to put a little heat on him for Saudi. And in the end, I think just give you a more desperate, anything's possible Roman Reigns as you walk into the Lesnar match at Mania, which I'm pretty confident we're going to get now. What do you guys think of that?
I mean, you've been putting Roman on his heels a little bit here, right? The Paul Heyman stuff, Seth Rollins. I did like the callback. I think that was great, right? You got to find ways to keep Roman interesting with giving him a title reign that's this long. And I see that happening. I just think he's been so dominant. It feels a little bit Shakespearean, sure. Feels a little bit forced to me that he's got to go through this. The Paul Heyman stuff, Paul Heyman's great. But why is he going back to Paul Heyman? Why is he so obsessed with Brock Lesnar? You got to fill in some of those gaps for me moving forward here for me to really believe Roman Reigns is the underdog against Brock Lesnar, I should say.
All right. Well, Fritz, I'll toss this one to you. Of course, I alluded to the fact we're going to WrestleMania. It looks like we're going to get Reigns Lesnar, because Lesnar, after he lost the WWE Championship to Bobby Lashley following an enraged Roman Reigns taking him out, he went on to win the Rumble match. Let's start there. What are your thoughts on the way that kind of played out with Roman then interjecting himself into the title match, leading to what we got finally at the end of the night with Lesnar taking the win?
I expected there to be interference in that match, and I was a little bit surprised it was actually Roman. I thought it was going to be the Usos, and they would do like the dirty work for Roman. So I was a little bit surprised when it was actually Roman that came out there, and it was just like, I'm going to handle my business my own way by myself, When it came to Heyman, like kind of working alongside Roman, I do want to get some explanation to that, because I need to understand why he would go back and do something with Roman after Roman physically assaulted him, not too long ago. So we'll see where the story goes. We need an explanation there. But like the second that Brock lost the title, I really wasn't surprised that he was going to be in the Rumble. And literally we were sitting there when it came down to number 30, I was sitting there going, well, who's left? I go, it's got to be Brock.
Yeah. And the thing is, a lot of people are upset about it because it felt very predictable. And it's interesting because I feel like with WWE, doesn't give people kind of what they're expecting or wanting, they get unhappy about it. So a little fickleness here, I think, maybe from the fan base. But inside the arena, it felt like, like we all kind of knew it was coming. It was weird. Like, I'm not really at a WWE show that often where people are just kind of like, okay, well, that was what it was. Any thoughts on that, Michael?
I just think we're going to get to some news later in the run sheet that would have tweaked my mind on this. The men's Rumble felt lacking in surprises. Brock Lesnar being the kind of big surprise at 30. There's one other major legends in this match. Sean Waltman is over there ready to wrestle. Let's get this dude out here for a pop, right? And so to end with Brock Lesnar, a guy we've already seen earlier in the night as being your big deal and the big winner, I think there were more interesting avenues to take. And to me, it just felt like a letdown from all of those perspectives. It just didn't, rather anticlimactic in my opinion.
Yeah.
But you know what? But I mean, going back to something you said there, Nick, I'm fine with some stuff being predictable. It's just, what is the story along the way, as long as it makes sense. And when it came to the men's Rumble, it felt like it was, and this has been a common argument by people, but I mean, it felt like just the land of mid-carders. Like you never
Sure.
felt like anybody really had a chance of winning. And this is one of the problems when it comes to WWE and their lack of star making that they've had over the last 5 years, because it's just like, hey, Brock is a huge star and we've seen a couple of big, but they've made Bobby Lashley at least, but like, where's this continuous, run of guys that you're going to elevate? And like Big E was somebody that thought like, oh, here's a big opportunity for Big E. And they did not run with that. And now you kind of wonder where his position is going to be as they move him back over to SmackDown.
Yeah, the thing is they picked the wrong guy to be the last person in the ring with Brock, and they did it in the women's rumble too, right? Because you saw Liv and Bianca go out at a time where I think people got upset because they would have loved to seen those women even get that kind of final nod, right? And it went back to Charlotte, of course, right? And then over in the men's side, Drew's Drew, and it's great that, he came back after a couple weeks out with injury or something. But I think, yeah, if you'd had Big E in there is the last person with Brock Lesnar, or you had Randy Orton, who was over like Grover in his hometown of St. Louis. They sent him back out after the show was over to get one more big pop, or even a Riddle who was it this year? Where's the Riddle rumor? PW Insider was saying Riddle was up for discussion about possibly even winning this thing before they decided to go the route they did with Brock Lesnar. So I just think they left it. It was anticlimactic because the guy that he was left in the ring with, people just were looking past him immediately.
I think the report coming out of WrestleVotes was WWE had plans since the pair began last spring for Riddle versus Orton at SummerSlam, which didn't happen. Plan was to hold off till Mania. I'm told now only a handful of creative members want to split them, with the idea that if the match happens, it should be for the WWE title. And so to your point about Randy Orton being over like Rover in his hometown, let the dude win the Rumble. He's a legend. Let's give Riddle a fluke title. I don't know if that'd be a fluke, but I think there are ways you could have gotten to Randy Orton versus Matt Riddle. The pair broke up. We have an interesting backstory there. Really dig in. You already set the seeds for Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar earlier in the night. I don't need a third segment with these two. Do something else interesting here. Big E, I think, got the short end of the stick there. Just to me, all of that felt a little bit just, there's no more air in this room. What do we have to be excited about? We've already seen this, Yeah.
And if you're going to split up Orton and Riddle, if you feel like now is the right time, okay, somebody's got to be the heel in that dynamic. And you think it's probably going to be Riddle. And that is a good use of the Royal Rumble match. You can use that as a device where everybody's just so excited, in St. Louis, Randy Orton, he's going to do it again. And then, Riddle's like, yay, high five. And then boom, dumps him, and Riddle ends up winning. And he's just like, hey, bro, it's all about getting the title. I mean, and if that's where you want to go, and we'll see if that's where they're going to go with this now, because, Bobby Lashley wins that title. And I know we're going to talk about this, but he's going to be putting that title up on the line, here at Elimination Chamber. I mean, is he going to have that short of a run where he could already lose it to an Orton or Riddle?
I 100% think that's a possibility, right? You throw him in this multi-man match where anything can happen with no rules in this big steel chamber. It seems like an easy way to get out of it, right? And, let's say a Riddle or an Orton is the ones to take him out. Like, how do you then set up what would be Riddle versus Orton for the title? Does that match even need a title? I would argue it doesn't, right? But I don't know who else you would pair with a Bobby Lashley to have a meaningful program there going into WrestleMania. It's tough right now.
Shane McMahon, Bad Bunny. What?
Yeah, well, Bad Bunny's going to go on tour. By the way, Bad Bunny racked up 2 eliminations. Sheamus, I guess, is saying he's not going to Mania with Bad Bunny. Shane McMahon, yeah, he also came back. PW Insider saying he's going to be at the Chamber and Mania. He's going to be regularly on the Raw brand going forward. He's also going to be a heel this time around. So I would, if he's going to, might as well put him in the Chamber. Why not?
He's the best in the world. He proved that at Saudi Arabia 2 years ago, right?
Sure.
Best wrestler in the world. What else do you need?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the last thing we needed to see was Shane McMahon back. I mean,
as a champion, though, as the WWE,
as anything. I don't need to see Shane. This is the whole indictment about WWE. And I know it's Mania season and they want stars, but it's just like, do we really need Shane McMahon back for this show? Are we lacking that much? We need Shane O'Mac.
I love that the directive right now with hiring is nobody over 30 if you're a guy, right? But Shane McMahon, who looks like he just left like your best friend's daughter's like birthday party, is going in there and shuffling and throwing hands with Riddle right now. He seemed a little out of place to me. Kind of looked a little Johnny Knoxville-esque at this point. Maybe that's
he throws a punch like somebody that goes to your daughter's birthday party and is trying to sell life insurance to everybody while he's there.
Yeah, well, I do Taibo on the weekends. I'm ready for this match, right?
So But yeah, Bad Bunny, I don't think that people were upset to see Bad Bunny. People were actually really into it. I thought it made some good moments. He didn't look terrible. I applaud what Bad Bunny's doing for WWE right now, and vice versa. They seem to be just really good partners for each other.
He
Wait
did
till we
some
get
pretty
to the
good
Bad
moves.
Bunny. I was going to say, wait till we get to the Bad Bunny Shane McMahon match in Mania.
Next year, man. Got to do it in LA. Got to do it Hollywood style. That's a big
build it up.
match.
Bad Bunny looked legit though. I mean, the thing that I think the difference here, right? Shane McMahon, to your point, Brian, the punches look weak. He comes off a little bit, kind of like a dad. Bad Bunny is number one. He's got a cool factor. I don't get it. I'm not the young population, but he has got a cool factor coming into the arena. But he's crisper than most non-full-time wrestlers are stepping in there, and I appreciated that about him. He looked like he belonged, right?
Yeah. Well, a couple other things. Well, before, last thing I'd say coming out of the Rumble, unless there's anything else we want to touch on. I want to circle back real quick to Lashley. But, yeah, Kofi Kingston went to do his Rumble spot where he gets bumped off the apron. He was going to, like, Spider-Man style clutch the side of the, barricade or whatever, and slipped, and his feet touched the ground, and he was legitimately eliminated. It was what it was. He's been a good sport about it. But I think, again, like, we don't know what they had planned for him and Big E, and it seems like Big E got kind of unceremoniously dumped after this, where it was just like, get me out of here, my stuff's done. I don't know. That's at least how it came across to me. So,
Well, here's the question I have about that. Like, did the camera really catch it at first with him, with both of his feet hitting the ground? Because if they didn't, why do you need to call it as a shoot? Like, we look at all the different Rumble matches where we've had screw-ups in the past. It's just like, if he didn't see it, then just let him
I'm pretty sure in the arena it was seen or on the big screen.
Who cares? Those people don't count. Only the people watching at home count.
Because there was an audible like, oh, in the like, I remember everyone being like, his feet touched, and everyone being like,
the referee standing there going, I'm getting word from the back. I'm getting word. Oh, I'm sorry. You're out. I'm sorry. It's a shoot. We can't.
Yeah. Well, and then so I mean, to your point, like, so what is it? Big E's back on Friday Night SmackDown now.
Sure.
Like, are we going down the? Were we going to set up Kofi Kingston versus Big E at the Rumble or at WrestleMania? Like, do we have a New Day blood feud kind of boiling there, or are we just going to put Big E back with the New Day? Could have been that, but who knows? We'll never know. Poor Kofi Kingston, right?
Well, I mean, New Day against Usos is the hot feud that's coming to WrestleMania. Come on.
Well, but you and Macaulay Cole could think that. So once we, before we roll into the women's side of what happened at the Rumble, Lashley's title win. This man beat Brock Lesnar by hook or by crook. This man beat Brock Lesnar. Do you feel Bobby Lashley was elevated by this? Because in the arena, people were really buying into and happy for Bobby Lashley getting the win here.
I think this it works, right? Because Bobby Lashley is a heel, MVP's at ringside. I think it works, but I don't know. It's weird to me to overshadow a title match with another title match. You know what I mean, Fritzy?
Yeah, I mean, I want to see that match, and I'd love to see it with a clean finish. I would love to see Bobby get that moment. It's just with the plans that they have right now, that was not going to be, in the cards for him. But, I don't think it really elevates him necessarily because of the way the finish went down, but I don't think it necessarily hurt him either. I mean, it's just kind of an avenue that they had to go to get the title off Brock. Yeah.
I mean, Lesnar sold for him more than I expected. I was genuinely not expecting the match to go as long as it did. And I thought, and considering like if Lesnar doesn't want to work with you or give you time, you don't get worked with or given time. And he went in there and he worked with Bobby Lashley and he gave him some time. And for that reason alone, I think maybe kind of upped his profile a little bit,
I think so. Well, yeah, you get a rub by being in the ring with Brock Lesnar, no matter who you are. But I kind of agree with Brian. I feel neutral after this because the finish wasn't Bobby Lashley being dominant. Like, do I want to see him go and defend it? I still feel like Brock's the alpha, Roman Reigns is the alpha, Bobby Lashley and Raw are over here doing something else on the island of misfit toys, right?
Yeah.
I felt better about Bobby last year Mania when he beat Drew for the title.
Yep.
That was the elevating match for him.
Yep.
So over on the women's side of things, we'll start with the big one. Ronda Rousey returned at the women's Rumble match. She came in number 28, went on to win it. There were other returns, Ivory, Melina. The Observer saying right now it's expected that Ronda Rousey is going to challenge Charlotte for the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania, and also coming out about the Observer saying there's a belief the Bellas are also going to be doing something at WrestleMania. Michael, you asked me before we came on the air what kind of reaction Ronda got outside of Seth's Shield entrance. I mean, look, I know there are a lot of things that are said about Ronda, and people feel a lot of different ways, but she got one hell of a reaction, easily the biggest of the night. The place went nuts. The place went nuts when Ronda Rousey came out, and I wasn't 100% she was going to get cheered if she won this thing. Dude, they were in the palm of her hand for this. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Brian, I'm going to let you go first because I'm full of opinions.
Well, I mean, we expected her to be there. And I think that's, I think when it comes to, the live crowd, whether they knew she was going to be there or not, that's a big moment because you got Ronda Rousey coming back, So I think they're going to be excited about that because it is a big name and she's coming back. And I think people are smart enough to know not only is she going to be in the Rumble, but that means she's back for at least WrestleMania season. And when she wins it, obviously that kind of, puts a stamp of approval that like, she's going to be here for a little while. So when you put big names like that, and she's already, had a good track record in WWE, I think people are going to react for that.
All right,
I think
Mike.
the pop is there for her return. And I think that's what you got on Sunday night was, look, it's a surprise to Brian's point, big name. We got her out here. For me, it's not about that. It's about what are we doing moving forward to get me excited about this division. Great surprise for the Rumble. The Rumble was full of returning women from previous generations who had cool moments, but we knew Summer Rae, as cool as she is, wasn't going to win the Rumble, which I love that moment. We knew some of these individuals were not out there. Mickie James had a cool moment, was not going to win the Rumble. You believed Ronda Rousey could, which made her a more exciting return. But again, do I want to see Ronda Rousey be the preeminent woman in this division for a year and a half when this division is struggling to establish new stars who aren't the 4 horsewomen right now, right? That's my concern.
Yeah, and it's very telling. Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey, your Rumble winners this year, part-timers, and I hate to use that term derogatorily, right? But like 2 people that you're not investing in year-round necessarily right now, and another opportunity goes by to elevate a younger talent that could have really gotten something out of this. I mean, Riddle is not the person I would have pegged to win it, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, who else do you have that's young that people are investing in and buying shirts and are on the rise right now? Maybe this was a missed opportunity. Maybe it was the right time, right place for a guy like that.
You look at what it did for Bianca Belair last year.
Totally.
You could have done something like that with one of these Rumbles. The other Rumble could have been the safe bet, but give a young gun that exposure or re-cement Big E. You want to go with Ronda Rousey? Do it. Give it to Big E, give it to Riddle, because these stars need establishing and people need to know they matter just as much as the Lesnars and Reigns of the world.
Yeah.
But I think WWE, isn't WWE right now, though, especially when it comes to Mania season and just kind of what the company is right now, focused on big names, big exposure by having Ronda Rousey come back, by having her win the Rumble, by having Brock Lesnar, win the Rumble. That means we can get more mainstream publicity for them. And that means, getting more attention for our company leading up to our biggest event of the year.
Yeah. Nick Khan looks at the Excel spreadsheet and says, we're going to make the most money on merchandise and sponsorships if we can put these logos next to Brock Lesnar's head, right?
But it's like, okay, go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
I was going to say the replays on the show had 2 sponsors. I mean, when have we ever seen that before?
It's just, are they going to be able to governor the fans and get the fans to react how they want? I'm not 100% that Ronda's, because like when you're in 50,000, whatever people there were in that dome, it was a cavernous space, right? Like a lot of kids, a lot of families and stuff. When you roll into Chicago and it's 12,000 fans and they're a little bit smarter and savvy, how does that kind of start to play around? It's going to be an interesting ride if you're making the choice to not commit to some fan favorites that people have really, sunk their teeth into over the past few months. A match that people did not sink their teeth into at the Rumble was Becky Lynch versus Doudrop. Becky did beat Doudrop, retain the Raw Women's title. The reason nobody was paying any attention to this match inside the arena was because the WrestleMania sign had caught fire after Ronda Rousey pointed at it and all the pyro went off. I've been to many pro wrestling events in my life. I've never seen anything like this. They had to clear the whole seating area underneath this massive thing. They lowered it down. I mean, Becky and Doudrop, I felt, I was already wary on that match because it was 2 heels fighting on a pay-per-view anyway. People checked out. This match will be forgotten forever. All anyone will ever talk about during this match is the sign catching fire. Any thoughts, questions?
Is that a bad thing for this match, though? I mean, come on, look at this match.
It was a It was such a metaphor. Like WWE's big, big sign literally catching flames during this match that nobody quite cared about.
I like that Becky actually acknowledged it in the middle of the match.
Yeah.
And she was just like, I'm on fire, just like that sign. I mean, I will say this, though. Over a decade ago, I was in the impact zone at Universal Studios when during the middle of a pay-per-view, there was a fire in the rafters and we had to go outside the building live pay-per-view and they had to kill time for close to an hour, which included them going to Scott Steiner, in front of fans outside, like just talk, just like they just started going to different wrestlers outside of the building. just kill time. Just give a promo, just kill time.
Well, the crazy thing, and this is very indicative of WWE's mindset right now, is not only did that happen after the Women's Rumble, later on in the night, after the Men's Rumble, they lit the fireworks and pyro again, and the sign caught on fire again. Like, what the hell?
And the best thing about that was because I was seated just kind of behind the sign so I could see the pyro lined up. I was like, I'm ready. I gotta record this thing right now because I want to see for sure in real time this catching fire. So we got a great video of it because I was prepared for it. But terrifying, man. Show went on, I was wondering if everybody was going to sit back down underneath that thing, and everybody went right back to their seats. Very bizarre.
Can you plug this? We got Dellin13 in the chat room, and I think it's a great call out here.
Okay.
Can we have a Funkadactyls reunion as a tag team and have the WrestleMania match that was taken from them when Total Leave was around? And we had the chance. We had both the Funkadactyls in the Women's Rumble, and they were within minutes of being in the ring at the same time. And I just thought that was a missed opportunity on Sunday night or Saturday night, I should say.
It just the whole and there's
So
only one
close.
match. These Rumbles were just slapped together, right? There were so many missed like, why didn't we get a payoff to Dominic and Rey Mysterio after weeks of them teasing, are you going to eliminate your dad, right? Like, why is Madcap Moss eliminating AJ Styles? What sense does that? I mean, it was just they were both just weirdly booked Rumbles.
There was no synergy. There was no storytelling within it. And you hear the stories coming out of this. It sounded like it was a frantic, chaotic day where things were being changed all throughout the day when it came to who, what number of people are going to come into the Rumble, what the exits were going to be, who's going to win. It sounded like a total mess.
Yeah. And to follow up on that, and I'll just throw out Edge and Beth, beat Miz and Maurice. We can talk about it later if we want. But anyway, PWInsider.com saying the morale after Saturday's Rumble was low compared to most recent WWE events. The reason for the low morale was because, as Brian said, how there was a whirlwind of constant changes going on into the event. WWE ended up changing the plans for the Rumble several times. Riddle was at one point supposed to be up front, and at one point, hometown star Randy Orton was in contention to possibly win the Rumble as well. So, yeah, a lot of chaos, a lot of people getting looked over, a lot of questions, head scratching. I mean, we haven't had you on, Fritzy. Let's take a step back. What do you think is going on here? Is this they're checked out, stripping parts, waiting to sell the thing, and they don't care? What is your hypothesis of the case for why WWE is the way it is right now?
I think it's that way because Vince McMahon looks at the ratings and he looks at everything and he wants to micromanage it. I mean, he looks around and he's like, who am I really going to trust as I'm down here in this foxhole? And he still believes I'm the guy that built this company and I'm the guy that can continue its success. And it doesn't matter about his age or what people question about him. I think he wants to micromanage those elements of it. And, as the day goes on and different ideas are presented to him, whether it's by talent or by those around him, like a Bruce Pritchard or whoever else is on creative, he changes his mind. I mean, we hear these stories regularly, especially when it comes to Raw, that changes are being made right up until the start of the show. So that's an extremely tough environment to thrive in.
Yeah. I think you're right there. I think he kind of leads from the hip a lot of times. I'm going to go with my gut instinct, what feels good to me. I don't want to put too much into this because this is reading between the lines, but also the poor dude's mom just passed away, right? And that puts some emotional toll on you. And I would imagine from a corporate hierarchy where everything, the bottom line ends with Vince McMahon, it probably took him out of the foxhole, to use your phrasing there, Brian, for a little bit in a company that really, he is the linchpin of every decision made in that company. So I think there's a lot of factors, but again, I think, Brian, you're right. That micromanaging, that shoot from the hip, it can lead to discord, which I think what we had on Saturday night, while wasn't chaos, it just lacked a vision for either one of those matches on Saturday.
But why doesn't he trust himself? Like, hey, we have this idea planned out. Then why going back on everything and changing and changing and changing?
Yeah.
You know, and this, I mean, it's not like a weekly episode of TV where creative is going to come up with ideas and it's like, don't like it, cross it out, let's start again. This is the Royal Rumble. This is something you can plan for weeks in advance.
Your gut instinct is typically the right instinct, is what people will tell you.
Shane O'Mac goes over.
All right. Well, Brian, thank you for joining Michael and I at the top of the show to talk all the news, to talk all about the Rumble. It was a wonderful ride. We should do this again sometime.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to come back.
I was so thrilled we could pull it off. Like, I didn't know if Michael was going to sign in and be able to like see your face down there or whatever. So
I've been talking to Mike, and we talk all the time anyway, so I had to keep it a secret. I couldn't say anything to him.
Damn, you texted me at 3:00 today. I had no, listen, Nick, you did a great job. I feel like I'm on like, This Is Your Life. This is my version of This Is Your Life, where my life is this show and all of you also. Thank you.
The Rumble's all about surprises. And so like whether or not they delivered, we're going to deliver. And so we did our best here today. That's going to bring us into our mailbag. Oh, by the way, thank you to Get WWE having us out on Media Row. Thank you all for enjoying that Apollo Crews interview. Go check that out. The AJ interview's up too. We ran that on the Friday show. Enjoy them. So the mailbag here we'll dive into very, very quickly. Over 400 votes. I asked everybody what rumored, I said WrestleMania 30. I meant 38. Yikes. Match are you most interested in? Is it Brock Roman, Ronda Charlotte, Orton Riddle, or something else? With 46.7% of the votes, Randy Orton versus Riddle is winning this poll. In second place, Brock Roman, 32.8, 12.4 for Ronda Charlotte, 8.1 for everything else. Wow. Fritz, we'll go to you first. What's your reaction to this? That a sizable chunk of people seem more interested in the match that they not investing everything in right now.
Yeah, we'll see if that match happens, if it's Orton and Riddle. But I mean, that's something new. It's something different, something fresh. And I think that's why people are probably most interested in it. I mean, and I totally get that. I mean, we've seen Roman and Brock, several times on this stage. I think the more interesting thing when it comes to the aspect of that match is this going to be a further coronation of Roman, or will this be Brock Lesnar ending the long run of Roman?
I gotta feel like further coronation. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I
do too. Yeah, I agree, and I want to know what Heyman's role is going to be in that, and then obviously what is going to be the story after that. Because if it's not Brock at WrestleMania, then who and when?
It's The Rock, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I would think you'd want to string this out until LA where you get Roman Rock, but as I've told Michael and others here many times, I'm also very intrigued to see what an off-the-chain Roman Reigns looks like right now, where he doesn't have the title, right? It's a very different dynamic than we've seen recently. Like, what is a very I mean, we got a glimpse at it, I think, at the Rumble, which is maybe why they did that booking. But, like, what does a desperate Roman Reigns look like? And that's different than the super confident Roman Reigns we've seen for over a year now.
I agree. I think the more interesting aspect about your poll, though, Nick, is not that Orton. I agree with Fritzy. Orton versus Riddle winning this makes a lot of sense to me. Ronda versus Charlotte is third on this poll. And I think it's a little bit unfortunate that we're building the entire women's division around. I think it's because Ronda and Charlotte both feel like these are the women that WWE wants us to be behind. And I think that's a recipe for disaster where fans could, last year we had Sasha versus Bianca in a really big match. I think fans could turn their back on this match if WWE's not careful.
Can you just imagine like Ronda eliminates Charlotte and then out of nowhere a down Liv Morgan comes up and just sneaks one out, pushes Ronda over the top like that? Those are the kinds of moments I feel fans want right now. And like, I'm not I mean, like, again, like, are they going to get their ESPN moments? Are they going to be on, Entertainment Tonight because of the Bad Bunny stuff? That stuff certainly plays to a very large net, but to the people that are really paying and you're wanting to deliver on and that your core audience, this felt like two missed opportunities to me here with these Rumbles to really make some people and get them to the next level.
But isn't that the battle? And are we going to cater a little bit more to our week to week, quote unquote, hardcore fans or regulars, or are we playing to a mainstream audience? And this is the time of the year where I think they want to play more to a mainstream audience because, I mean, on that same note, Nick, I mean, when you talk about like who could have been there, I mean, I don't know if they're healthy enough or they're eligible or what's going on there, but why weren't Bayley and Asuka, even in the Rumble at all? much less have big roles in it. Because I think there's a lot of fans that have been waiting for them to come back and see what they can do, which we need more depth to that division. And those are two good players.
Agreed. A lot of people in the audience were asking about that as well. All right. Well, we are going to call it a day there. We're going to call it a daily there today for the Wrestling Inc. Daily. Come on back tomorrow. I'm going to be joined by Second City Chicago's EJ Cameron. We're going to talk even more pro wrestling news. You're going to get to hear my conversation with Nikki Ash. Going to be on the show tomorrow. That one from Royal Rumble Media Row as well. Support the Wrestling Inc. Daily. We're on iTunes and all the podcast platforms. SupportWrestlingInc.com. We're on all the socials. And, of course, come back tonight after Raw right here for the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Fritz, anything you want to put over before we wrap up the show today?
I will. If anybody wants to follow me, you can on the tweets, at Brian Fritz. And
sure.
By the way, if you are doing a podcast or thinking about doing one you want professionally produced, you can hit me up there, or you can follow me at Pod Done Right, or go to podcastingdoneright.com, because that's what I'm doing also on the side, is I professionally produce podcasts, and I can make yours sound great.
Wow. All right. I'm a hard sell. All right, Michael, what do you want to put over here?
A little PPP there for you. Professionally podcast producing. I am Michael Wiseman. I'm on Twitter at The Real Wiseman, and I'm just going to get a plug in right here, trying to pin Brian down for some kind of revival of Between the Ropes. If I can get a verbal confirmation right now, Brian, just say yes. We'll do it. Just say yes.
Oh, I think my internet's fading.
So close.
Oh, and he's gone. He's gone. We lost him. Wow. Well, hey, as the sands of time through an hourglass, these are the days of our lives. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm at Nick_Hausman. I'll talk to you on tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.